Okay? But if you think Israel striking Iran means that a ceasefire is not happening, that's not the case. Israel always strikes way harder before, if anything, it's further proof that a ceasefire might be happening, because Israel strikes way harder. Only article that we've seen that confirms. Yeah, did Iran actually agree to silently absorb Israeli fire for 12 hours straight? What a strange agreement. I don't think it's real. Kyle calls it a fake ceasefire. Okay, well, Kyle Kalinske is even less of a direct party. I would rather listen to Yashar than Kyle Kalinske on this. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like, I love Kyle, but what the f does he know about what's going on internally in Iran? At least Yashar has like relatives and shit and can sometimes break news Iran related. Taking shots at Kyle because he cooked his dumbass uncle? No. No, I love Kyle. And the only reason why I couldn't watch Kyle destroy Uncle Chunk Weigert is because I couldn't stand to watch him get eviscerated. Kyle's just speculating like you, bro. Relax. Yo, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I love Kyle. And I respect Kyle's analysis. But what the f does he know? He knows just as little as I do about whether or not this ceasefire is real. I'm looking for a primary source here, okay? I'm looking for, like, even the Iranian news agencies are not a primary source in this situation. I need the foreign minister to say something, or I need the Ayatollah's account to tweet something. Like this right here, Trump announced that Iran will start the ceasefire first upon the 12th hour, and Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, there will be an official end of the... This is primarily what is making me very skeptical of this news. Who has ever heard of a ceasefire agreement where one side agrees to stop firing, but the other side is explicitly allowed to keep attacking for another 6 hours? And as well, what does it mean that there's an official end to the 12 hours after the ceasefire? There was no official declaration. This is an invention of Trump's brain where countries officially declare on each other. Like, none of this makes sense. What is going on? God damn it, this government is so stupid. I'm sorry. We have shred every single... At the risk of sounding like a liberal, I do want to say there are some rules and some norms that are important to abide by so that we can make sense of events that are unfolding, so that we can have a sense of stability. Okay? This is one of those things where, like, the president shouldn't be irresponsibly tweeting out the end to a 12-day conflict without every party agreeing to it. Like, this should be an official communique. And it makes it really hard to read Trump's Truth Social post, not even Twitter post, but his Truth Social post as official communiques of the government. Like, he's the last person. HasanAbi says, an Iranian official confirms an agreement has been reached to stop the war between Iran and Israel. Like, what is... this is the only account. I mean, this seems more official, but, like, does it mean that it's the 12-hour, 6-hour deal? You giving Trump props or still hating? Why would I give him props for anything? Are you stupid? What is their prop? If Trump's quote-unquote ceasefire is real, okay, what was accomplished? What was accomplished here? They were in the midst of a negotiation. Israel struck amidst the negotiation and then got a bunch of city blocks reduced to rubble in retaliation in Israel as well. 12 days of complete halt to any economic activity for Tel Aviv and for Israel in general. They had their energy grid attacked. Iran didn't have anyway. We don't even know if they, like, actually successfully hit Fordow, which is deep underground, but it doesn't even matter because the enriched uranium wasn't in Fordow. Iran had revealed that far before America came in and struck Fordow. So what happened? Donate to denims, everyone. Okay. Also, of course, note with the Nobel Peace Prize talk started right now was a choice by Netanyahu that Trump enabled. He then set a risky new precedent of direct U.S. attacks on Iran, which will be called upon in the future, and dramatically hardened sentiments in Tehran. We're about to see an avalanche of this spin. Note that U.S. and Iranian officials and experts are clear Iran's program faced limited damage, which means the root of the current crisis is yet to be tackled. Doing so peacefully was always hard. This likely made it harder. I don't understand this at all, man. Iranian state-affiliated media. Yeah, that's Mer News, which is what is happening. And now the Israel Defense Forces have released 2 more evacuation orders for both Mehran and District 6 in northern Tehran. And Iran said they're going to retaliate and hit Tel Aviv. You're the news guy? Brother, I'm the news guy, but the news is insane. For the record, this does not mean that there is no ceasefire, for the record. I just need you to understand. Breaking, New York Times, Israeli military spokesman declines to comment on Trump's ceasefire statement. What? We trust Iran. Wait, what? Yes. Yes. There are different, like FARS, I think is like what? The highest level. Like the Iranian state media is the most reliable as far as like official communiques, which resembles official communiques. Mer is semi reliable. It's a state affiliated outlet. Okay. And the highest degree of reliability is directly coming from the Ayatollah account or another official like the foreign minister or something like that. This does make me think that there may be something happening, but that Trump jumped the gun or they're refusing to comment because they have no idea what's going on. Iran's New York mission declined to comment to France 24 when asked if they have received the ceasefire proposal from the U.S., whether or not Tehran has accepted it. This was all just propaganda for Israel. J.D. Vance already calling it the 12-day now, and they're going to say this was that Israel obliterated Iran. It was never about. That doesn't mean anything. What the American government says about how successful this was means nothing. It's lower than dirt. Nobody trusts America. They can try and pump this to the dumbest morons, but there's already enough partisan enmity inside of the United States of America, especially because Trump mishandles shit like this all the time, that this means that the dumbest NPCs that you know will go, dude, Trump did a 12-day agreement with Israel. He's your president. He's the GOAT. That's it. No one other than the dumbest people in America will respond to this positively, unless it's a real ceasefire, in which case there might be some people that will eat that propaganda. But I don't know. I don't know what is going on. According to Reuters, Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Al Thani secured Iran's agreement to a U.S. ceasefire proposal during a phone call recently with Tehran. I mean, that's Osen Defender. I don't know. Trump may be claiming a ceasefire, but he supported an Israeli assault on Iran in the middle of diplomacy. If this truce is real, will Israel now halt this and sabotage? None of its strategic goals were achieved. The ceasefire would now mark Israeli failure. I don't know what's happening. I'm telling you, I don't know what's happening. There is no way to know what's happening because this is the most. Trump is so insane that it is impossible to know what is happening. Okay. But if you think Israel striking Iran means that a ceasefire is not happening, that's not the case. Israel always strikes way harder before, if anything, it's further proof that a ceasefire might be happening because Israel strikes way harder when a ceasefire is imminent. I don't know the details of the ceasefire, however, because the idea that like there's going to be a 6-hour period where Israel can strike without ever getting struck back is insane to me. I don't know why Iran would ever agree to such a decision. But yeah, Israel always does this. They did it in Lebanon. This is their modus operandi. This is the way they operate. Check Al Jazeera. It's breaking news. Senior Iranian official confirms to Reuters Tehran agreeing to Qatar-mediated U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. So the outline is being formed here. It's like, I think Trump just got off the phone and instantly locked it. Like, I think he just got off the phone and just started tweeting. Okay. I'm trying to make sense of what took place just now in this like last hour. Okay. And I think he just basically just threw it out there. Okay. And in the process of tweeting like a child, he might have just like written the wrong thing as far as like the boundaries of the ceasefire, which is why everyone was confused. Because like I think that the ceasefire is probably not giving a 6-hour window to Israel to continue striking Iran without any retaliation. That feels very weird. That doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how any of this works, right? So I don't know if that happened. Also, Israeli strikes hits Tehran despite Trump's ceasefire announcement. It's been over 40 minutes since Donald Trump announced that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel to begin in 6 hours. The Israeli military, since the announcement, issued evacuation warnings to Tehran's District 6 and 7, as well as the Mehran area, citing imminent strikes on regime infrastructure. Shortly afterward, Israeli warplanes launched multiple airstrikes across the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iran state-affiliated Mer News reported explosions in several neighborhoods in northern and eastern Tehran, along with additional blasts in unnamed cities. In response, Iran has issued an evacuation warning for Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv, also reported by Mer. Iran has reportedly downed another Israeli Hermes drone downed in Tehran. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the most insane things that I've ever had the displeasure of reporting on in real time. This is truly unique. As I said in the initial possible ceasefire implementation, it is not unique for Israel to strike and strike super hard right at the precipice of a ceasefire. As a matter of fact, this further confirms that the ceasefire is real. What doesn't make sense about the ceasefire boundaries that Trump just tweeted out unceremoniously, but very normal for Trump, is that Iran would agree to a ceasefire for in the next 6 hours, whereas Israel gets to keep bombing for an additional 6 hours. That doesn't make sense. Behind the scenes, the ceasefire was agreed upon through Qatari and American mediation between Israel and Iran. Sources familiar with the matter said, after the attack on the American base, Iran conveyed a message to the White House via Qatar that it would not carry out further attacks and that its response was over, according to a source familiar with the details. The White House responded to Iran with its own message emphasizing that it would not respond militarily to the Iranian attack and that the United States was ready to resume negotiations on the nuclear agreement. Talks then continued between the U.S. and Israel and between Qatar and Iran to agree to terms of the ceasefire and the time at which it would begin. Netanyahu has ordered ministers to not comment on the recent developments until further notice. Source Israeli Channel 12. Okay, so considering, okay, here, let's operate on the notion that this ceasefire is real, okay? Let's also further operate on the notion that the ceasefire does not have a 6-hour additional window of striking for Israel because it's a normal ceasefire as opposed to whatever the Trump tweeted out, okay? Let's say this ceasefire was implemented and it's a real ceasefire. It makes sense that Iran would say yes to it. As I told you time and time again, Iran, given how restrained its retaliation has been against Israel and certainly against the United States of America, just purely symbolic to say, like, we're still here and we have the capabilities of striking your bases. It was an off-ramp for America and it was an off-ramp for Iran, and America took that off-ramp, so it makes sense. This, however, is horrible for Israel. The reason why this is horrible for Israel is because when Israel initially implemented this operation, I don't know, Gay Lion or whatever they called it, I forget, lion in the night sky like shooting stars. I could really use a wish right now. When they started the Operation Prosperity Lion, okay, when they did that, when they said Israel is lion, not India, okay, Operation Israel is the real lion, not India. Stop saying India is lion too, sir. When they started that, their goal wasn't to just, like, I don't know, take out the nuclear facilities or some shit. Their goal was, and the reason why they started with a decapitation strike was to finally hit the big one, hit the big target. Regime change in Iran. Now, their calculations might have changed in the process over the course of the past 12 days because they were not able to keep up defenses they were not maybe able to keep up their defenses, and they didn't have the capacity to continue going, and they weren't able to bring in America in a more significant way, okay? And therefore, they had to stand down. But ultimately, this would be a big L for Israel's goals. Because Israel did not just want to, I don't know, disrupt the nuclear negotiations. They wanted to disrupt the nuclear negotiations with an additional goal. And the goal is, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Trump W, it's Jover, wrong. Copium, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Wrong on what? So Israel just wanted to what? Strike Iran? That's what it is for like a couple days to get their nuts off? Like, what do you mean? Israel, from its announcements from the start, signaled that this was the final battle, the crown jewel. Okay, Chair and rope Hasan. Why don't you just tell me to kill myself? Why do you have to go through this like pussy ass route? I mean, it's not going to happen. But what do you mean chair and rope? Thoughts on 9/11? Trump 2020, baby. Some items have more value on traders, but items like a GPU will go for more on flea market. This motherfucker's been following me since 2019. What did Iran really do to Israel? It seems like not much. No, I think the fact that Iran was able to, for 12 days in a row, pummel Israel and keep Israeli society inside of bunkers is pretty significant. You have to remember, Israel's never experienced this kind of retaliation before. What they lost in the process is also super significant, which is precisely the reason why I did not say that this was a W for Iran, but it was an L for Israel. But make no mistake, the fact that Israel's currently striking Tehran with increased intensity does not mean that there is no ceasefire. It actually is further evidence that a ceasefire is imminent. Israel always strikes with extra intensity on the last couple of hours of a ceasefire process. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs, Burgles. Perhaps this could be a way to buy time and replenish Israel's Iron Dome interceptors and then relaunch the aggression later. That could be the case. And this time they could start with like a straightforward decapitation strike to push the entire region into further chaos. I don't think Israel is happy with this situation. No matter what they say, they will probably come around and claim that they got massive W's here. The joint partnership is stronger than ever before, but I don't think they're happy with this effort at all, because their goal was to bring America. Their goal was to basically bring America into the fold and take the war to Iran. Clipped and shipped. Wait, what? You're such a fucking clown. Based Zach Rar. Mocking the working class again, eh, Hasan? Trump too based. You soy losers can't handle it. Put more words in his mouth. Oh my God, all the Trump supporters are crying in the chat. Amazing. You're right, guys. Your glorious God King, he did it. He brought the world back to, I don't know, 12 days prior. Because if you recall, before Israel struck Iran, the position was Iran wasn't striking Israel and Israel wasn't striking Iran. None of the military goals were achieved in the process. They didn't get the enriched uranium. I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though it's like, I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though this is like a significant W. Iran now says agreed. Trump, Israel and Iran agree to ceasefire. Iran have not received any ceasefire proposal. Israel declined to comment on ceasefire. Iran now says agreed to U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. All while Israel is still striking Iran, and Iran is still stating that they will strike Israel. Israel and U.S. going to strike again when they get close to the nuke, so this ceasefire is just a piece of paper to wipe your ass with? Dude, the Iran nuclear enrichment was simply a way to harden their position so they can actually maintain their civilian nuclear infrastructure, okay? They were under no obligation to not enrich uranium because Trump had already destroyed the JCPOA and was already sanctioning them as though they had violated the JCPOA when they hadn't. Of course they're going to enrich uranium. What are you talking about? It is a way to try to gain leverage so that you can reduce the sanctions or just, end the sanctions entirely. Honestly, sad seeing so many Gen Z service members cheering this on like another forever war is something we need, being cutesy and acting like this is an immediate W. A lot of them weren't born in 2003. I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, they got their hearts set out. They'll learn the lesson the hard way, I think. The fate of every active duty service member is to either, become the dumbest hog of all time or to inevitably become a HasanAbi head and a dedicated anti-war veteran. That's it. There's only two ways for the Western man. In both ways, your wife is probably having sex with Jody. In both of those pathways, there are some similarities regardless. and you either learn the lesson the hard way and change trajectory, or you just never learn that lesson and you continue and you become a Fox News commentator. USA still blew Iran's nuclear sites. Wouldn't that be a W for Israel nonetheless? No, dude. Why the fuck would that be a W for Israel? Israel doesn't give a shit about Iran's nuclear capabilities. America doesn't give a shit about Iran's nuclear capabilities. They don't have nukes. That's just a lie that they told everybody so they could justify going to war with Iran. What is happening? It's kind of interesting how quickly people will just go, yeah, these administrations that have lied in perpetuity and in broad daylight, I'm going to believe the things that they're telling me. Like, what happened? What happened to like a healthy dose of skepticism? This doesn't make any sense. If reports of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran are substantiated, expect an Iranian civil war between royalists and MEK supporters in exile. Rudy Giuliani has already fired the first shot on behalf of his MEK patrons. Yeah, the real civil war is going to be between the MEK and the royalists on who gets to be the true puppet for the inevitable Iranian regime change. Diplomat briefed on the ceasefire talks on Fox News. President Trump spoke with Qatar's emir and informed him the U.S. got Israel to agree with the ceasefire with Iran. The president asked Qatar to help persuade Iran to do the same. Following the Vice President Vance coordinated with Qatar's Prime Minister on the details. This effort proved successful, and following discussion with the Qatari PM and the Iranians agreed. The deal was coordinated at the highest level by the president and vice president and the Qatari emir and prime minister directly. Despite having been attacked just hours earlier, the Qataris set aside their grievances and prioritized regional security to get the deal done, the diplomat added. Iran did not get regime change by the collective West and Israel. They won easy. No, they didn't. They did not win. This is not a W for Iran. Okay? I mean, Israel, it's an L for Israel, but it's not a W for Iran. Please. Israel literally came in amidst negotiations with the West, showed that they had the capacity to actually manipulate Western nations and even the United States of America and bring them onto the cause, assassinated a ton of IRGC commanders, and established air superiority over key parts of Iran in the process, kept bombing Iran in the process. No, it's not a massive W for, it's not a W for Iran at all. Yes, they avoided regime change for now. They avoided becoming a fail state for now. That doesn't mean that this ended. So Vietnam lost against the U.S.? No, Vietnam did not lose against the United States because Vietnam was able to literally stop the U.S. forces and become a singular state again, a state led by the Vietnamese. Iran and the regime change ambitions have not actually stopped. Defender always wins when they stop aggressor. No, because the aggressor has not stopped is what I'm saying. Do you think Israel is done? You think we just took this L, it's over? No, of course not. That's why I'm saying it's more so a spectacular defeat for Israel as opposed to a major victory for Iran. Seeing more reports on this, seems they definitely assassinated someone. Reports of possible assassination strike in Tehran. Yeah, we haven't even made damage assessments on what this last round of Israeli fucking missile strikes look like either. So there's also that. Initial reports of a targeted assassination strike against a senior official of the Iranian capital of Tehran. God damn it. It's not even fucking killed the negotiator. Bet you anything. I can see that. Does Iran win in showcasing Americans' barbarism? Obviously, America's always been barbaric, but on a world stage, no. Nobody gives a shit. Every world leader, I mean, just like China was not able to, I think, successfully show to the Western leaders that America is a unreliable ally and unfit to lead global trade in the tariffs back and forth, even though they had a lot more power to do so than Iran. I don't think that Iran showing restraint and their interest in diplomacy does anything to leadership of the Western world. They all fucking despise Iran. They also, I think, have